Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. This is part 2 of the July energy forecast. Definitely listen to part 1 because part 1 gives you the overarching theme energetically for the month. I dive deep into the numerology and also the major astrological influence, which really is Saturn and Neptune. It is those two planets coming so close to a conjunction and both of them retrograding. That theme really overwhelms the energy of July. So, all the other things that are happening, which are pretty big, it's almost like they're secondary roles and they're minor influences. And again, they're not minor, they're pretty major, but that energy theme is so astounding that it can convolute things or drive the bus, so to speak. So definitely marinate on that. I would review it and re-listen to it. And it's funny when I share this with you all, I do these things. I go back, I listen, re-listen because I hear things differently. Puzzle pieces start to come back together. And sometimes I listen to my own podcast. I actually listen to them quite a bit. Sometimes I cringe. Other times I'm delighted in what I hear and I hear the information that I share and take it to heart myself. But I also do that with other people that I follow or find really speak to my soul. I listen and re-listen, integrate and reintegrate. But that's how I learn. It's also a love language of my soul, that listening. It's kind of the cadence of the vibration, and being in that energy helps my synapses to fire and wire in a certain way. And I know so many of you out there feel that way. You've shared that with me, and it makes my heart sing when you share that feedback with me, that you feel that and you learn and synthesize the same way or in similar ways that I do. So, with this second half of July, we've got a handful of things happening, and it's going to kick off. And I'm going to start around July 13th, which followed the Capricorn full moon, which I went through in the last podcast. Saturn will retrograde at like 1.5 degrees of Aries, nearly 2 degrees of Aries. So it's not quite at that 2 degree mark, but it's right there. Saturn stations retrograde on the 13th. What I shared is that both Saturn and Neptune that are retrograding, we feel this as we enter July and we feel it throughout July. So it's not a one and done energy because these planets are large, they're far out, they're slow moving. So it's like a slow burn, a slow pause. It's a drawn out circumstance. It just is the way that it feels. So just know that the date that it occurs is July 13th. And as Saturn retrogrades, and remember that Saturn is about maturity, responsibility, it's about framework, it's about practical, tangible action, duty, leadership, legacy, destiny. It's highly masculine. And it's masculine in a very linear and practical and earthbound way, and also in a divine masculine way. So to me, this retrograde phase signifies a connection with the divine masculine. And we talk about, or at least in spiritual circles and communities, the divine feminine is thrown around left and right, connecting with divine feminine energy and coming back into our innate intuition and wisdom and healer energy, mother energy. That gets discussed quite a bit, but there's divine masculine energy too. And I think sometimes when we look at some of the disentanglement of the patriarchy and we look at patriarchal society and formulation, and then we think about women's rights and women's movements, those things are very linear. They're very three-dimensional. They have played out in our personal lives and through our lineage, our ancestry on the world stage for eons. but we are moving into higher levels of consciousness, which is this beautiful dance and confluence of divine masculine and divine feminine. And the divine masculine is not ruling over, patriarchal, condescending, stern, like it doesn't have that father figure image to it. It is more inclusive and it creates a safe guard, a safe haven. It's almost elusive for me to define it, but I know when I see divine masculine imagery and influence within myself, it's a lot of it has been in removing force because masculine energy is extroverted, it's penetrating, it's external, and there's this element of drive and success and ambition and force in masculine energy. And we need that energy just as much as we need the yin, the receptive, and the feminine attributes of energy. But the divine masculine moves externally, organically, without force. And I've shared this with you all before, but I've been practicing the removal of force. And you know what it makes me think about is makes me think about Star Wars, being in the force field, be the force. And it's about being at one with the energy of force, which is very organic. And again, I know I'm being a bit elusive in my description because it's like a sacred dance or a sacred action, removing that force. And if I were to explain that with a practical example, I know that when I sit down to the computer and I have tasks on my plate to do, whether it's responding to emails, scheduling, accomplishing administrative task, and I sit down and my body language feels kind of hunched over, small, crunchy, like I've got to get this done. I need to get these next things done. It's very box checking energy is the way I know to articulate it to you, but I can feel it in my body. And it's like my shoulders are hunched over, I'm crouched down, I'm typing, I'm trying to get things done. It feels forceful. It feels forced. It feels like I am doing it with resistance rather than with ease. So when I feel that energy, a lot of times I recognize that I'm making things harder for myself or I'm choosing a more forceful path. And sometimes I can't just flip the switch to remove the force and be organic and light and easy breezy. But what I will do is I will literally roll my shoulders back. I will open and close my jaw. I might roll my neck around. I might take a few breaths. I might shake my hands out and shake my face a little bit. I've been shaking my face a lot lately. I've been, like, moving lymph and shaking, energy out of my face because it feels really good, actually. But that's, when I recognize my body feeling forceful and crunchy, and my mind and my energy feel that way, I will do something simply within the realignment of my body to move that force energy out so I can come in more easy, more organic, and emitting energy versus forcing energy. So hopefully that awareness of when you get tight, when you get crunchy, when you get salty in your body and in your energy field, noticing it and move your physical body a bit so you can approach whatever is at on your plate or at hand with an easier stance, an easier presence that is not necessarily weakened or lighter, but is more radiant. So there's a radiance to divine masculinity. That's probably a good word to attribute it to. So as Saturn retrogrades in Aries, remember Aries is about individuality, about courage and boldness. There's this element of pulling our energy inward and reforging something, reforging aspects of our identity to incorporate that into our presence and our persona, our being. And Saturn will be retrograde for a hot minute. It's going to be retrograde through the fall. So you got a little bit of time to play with this energy. But Saturn is starting to redefine our impulses, our inner urges, our instincts, essentially. So it may feel like your energy or your individuality is subdued or diluted a bit. Don't be afraid of that. Like if you feel come, let's say August, because you'll really feel some of this strongly in July, but then when it kind of stabilizes, for lack of better words, because there's nothing real stabilizing about this, but when it grounds in or stabilizes a little bit, you may feel a little lost in your identity, or that ways you've been showing up in your day-to-day life are starting to feel uncomfortable or misaligned in some sort of way. Explore that instead of beating up on yourself or judging yourself or just taking that at face value. Take some time to contemplate it. It's also a time where forging ahead will be delayed. It's not a big charge ahead time when Saturn retrogrades. It's a redefining time. It is a time to review, reflect, and it's also because Saturn is about responsibility. Responsibility really turns inward. And I think there is no better, more clearly empowered transit, astrological transit, than Saturn retrograding in Aries to redefine personal responsibility. And something I was taught a long time ago, and this really focuses around control. The only thing I truly have control over is my attitude, actions, and behaviors. So this is the phase where I will think about what I am personally responsible for: my attitude, my actions, and my behaviors. And my attitude check is number one. And that's what I want to encourage you all to think about during Saturn retrograde in Aries is check your attitude and check your motives. Start with your attitude. Am I coming at it with just a bad attitude, a joyful attitude, or a benign attitude? Check your attitude and really ask yourself, is this the attitude that is true to me right now? Is it the one I want to have? Do I want to approach this circumstance or relationship or struggle with this attitude? Or do I want to have a different attitude and outlook? And you get to choose, but just become aware of your attitude and how that impacts your energy field. Yes, your behaviors and your actions, but think about how your attitude impacts your energy field. And the example I just shared with you all about when I feel in that force of I've got to get this done. I got to type this stuff out. I got to respond to these people. And I always say it's like when I am just box checking through life, checking a box rather than intentionally moving through life. I enjoy intentionally moving through life versus box checking. It becomes more easy, more fluid, synchronistic, and delightful than administratively approaching my life. And so I have become more aware of that. And of course, I'm a human, so I default into the human doing all the time. But this retrograde is helping us to become more of our human being self. Also, thinking about boundaries with around yourself and the boundaries you are reformulating, because this is such an empowered transit to acknowledge the boundaries you have either already established or that need to be established, or boundaries that may need to be redefined or reinforced. So think about boundaries, and not just verbal or personal boundaries, energetic boundaries. And I have shared with you multiple times how important I believe energetic boundaries to be. They have become extremely important for me in the way that I recognize when my energetic boundaries are not strong and fortified, my physical body takes a toll. And what I mean by that is it's not about me putting up a shield or being super protective around my energy field. That's not the attitude I approach. I infiltrate my energy field with light, intelligence, love, healing, empowerment, whatever comes to me that is of a higher vibrational attribute. That's what I infuse my energy field with. And I do it often, especially I do it one to one, but I do it a lot in public places and even in small groups because I have found myself to be extremely energetically susceptible. And what takes the toll is my physical health and well being. And my body has started to scream louder when my energetic boundaries are not fortified and strong. And also when I am in around people, places, and circumstances that I am not it's not healthy for me to be around because my body is absorbing too much of someone else's energy or projection. And it is not a judgment on anyone around me. It's just something that I have noticed. So I've gone inward quite a bit and not isolated, but I've been very mindful about my yes and no because right now my energetic field is upgrading significantly. And so are many of your energetic fields out there, whether you have recognized it or not. Something magnificent and also quite uncomfortable is happening in your energy field. We are inviting more light into our bodies, and this is unprecedented. So there's no roadmap for it. It's simply attunement and awareness. It's a feeling of comfort and safety in the physical body versus dis-ease and discomfort. I think Saturn retrograde will turn the volume up on this quite a bit in Aries, so pay attention. But recognize if your energy and vitality and oomph and forge ahead mojo feels off and wacky, your vitality feels a bit depleted, you're feeling the energy. If that shows up for you, and it could be your hormones, it could be that you had a sick child all night. It could be those things too. I get it. I get the reality day-to-day environmental and life stuff that happens. But in general, if you're sensing this lack of vitality or lowered, diminished energy, you're not being blocked, you're being rebuilt. It's almost like scaffolding and infrastructure that is not sustainable or moldy or faulty foundations are being basically removed. And that it's happening in our energetic body, in our light body, and in our physical body with our cells and DNA. So just know you're not being blocked or you're not being pushed down. You're being remolded, rebuilt. And discipline right now, and this is like huge, and this is what has come through so clearly. Discipline right now means staying with the unraveling, the dismantling, not running away from what is unraveling, unfolding, dismantling, holding space for it as valuable, as worthy, and it is uncomfortable. But the more that I hold space for what's being disentangled within me, the more comfort starts to come through, the more truth starts to come through. And it was really weird the other day. I think I was in Pilates, but I was breathing and doing my Pilates thing. And it was like, as I was breathing, I was full body breathing because whatever I was doing was requiring my full breath, obviously, and my focus and attention. But it was like, as I was there in my body, I could see my heart, like literally my heart as an organ. And I'm not super clairvoyant that way, visual that way, but I do have that gift and ability. I know how to exercise it, but it's not my go-to. But it was like I could see my heart and it looked like all these, like, cobwebs were around my heart and, like, anchoring it down, and the cobwebs were, like, breaking one by one, like, to free my heart. And I know that sounds so bizarre and cheesy, but it was so like, I could just picture it, like, on a movie screen. Like, if my heart were put up on, a laparoscopic procedure were put up on a movie screen of my heart, it was like all of this web of entanglement was starting to, like, break free, and my heart was starting to beat true. And again, that may sound cheesy as all get out to you, but it was such vivid imagery that I couldn't ignore it, and that's how I feel right now, and I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but it's like being unblocked, unbound, so staying with that energy versus trying to outpace it or outrun it. Well, guess what happens after Saturn retrogrades? Our good friend and good trickster, Mercury, will retrograde. It's that time of year again. Mercury retrogrades 3 or 4 times a year. It's not a long phase. We just tend to feel it a little bit more day to day and drastically because Mercury is so close to planet Earth. Mercury will station retrograde July 18th at 15 degrees of Leo. And Mercury will be retrograde in Leo the entire time through August 11th. It will station direct August 11th at 4 degrees Leo. So, for any of you out there who are Leos or have planets in Leo, and you have planets between 4 and 15 degrees Leo, this is going to impact you more than it impacts all of us. It'll impact all of us in one way, shape, or form. But these are always the things that I look for in my natal chart. And like with Saturn retrograding, for instance, Neptune retrograding, do you have planets in Aries that are at, anywhere from 1 to 3 degrees of Aries, or, oh, like me, Libra, 1 to 3 degrees of Libra. And of course, there's a lot of other astrological configurations that can be happening here. But these are things you want to check your natal chart for to see how these retrogrades and planetary movements are touching or interacting with your natal chart. So back to Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde in Leo is kind of bizarre. Like, it's a little bit awkward. I'm going to say that. I mean, what astrological influence this month isn't awkward? None of them. So it's just like it goes with the theme. It's par for the course this month. Mercury in Leo, when it is moving direct, which it is right now, it is expressive and playful, seeking pleasure, loving to be center stage, embracing its spontaneity and creativity and joy de vivre. It's quick on its feet. It's the performer. I mean, Mercury in Leo feels good. It feels good to me as a more kind of introverted, contemplative gal. Mercury in Leo gives me some extroverted flair and vibe. I love it. I love to vibe with that. When Mercury retrogrades in Leo, it is quite, it's like it dampens the creative self expression externally. And this is not a negative thing, or it's really what is happening is it's beginning to unravel the ego's voice. It's a softening. So think about this. If Leo is represented by the lion, what the retrograde phase is doing is it's softening the need to roar. Think about that. Let that land for a minute. Instead of having a really loud, overpowering, overwhelming voice or energy field or display, it's softening your voice in order to strengthen it, softening your energy field, fine tuning your communication and self expression so it actually amplifies through a softness versus a loud roar. Think of it that way. And essentially, what's happening, because Leo is ruled by the sun, Leo focuses heavily on the healthy development of ego, but Leo is connected with the heart. When Leo is in its greatest expression, it's not only regal, it is generous, and generous because why not? Why not give? Give of light and love and expression. It gives from the heart. So, what this is doing is it's calling in more light into our heart space, our self expression through the heart versus our voice and our demonstrative nature. So it's about not needing to prove something. It's really about becoming more real, more true. And remember, with retrograde Mercury, it's not the best time to sign on the dotted line or to launch something. It's a time to listen, to redefine, rewrite, revise, review, rethink. Mercury is about thinking and communication. So it's a time of revision and revising your creativity, revising your light, your creative self expression, revising the way in which you want to communicate and share yourself with other people in order to allow a new, more tender and true voice to resonate. So the ego will be a bit disruptive and you may feel awkward in your self expression, or it may come out in a backwards way of like over expressing yourself. And the way I think about that is social media. Like, sometimes when it's like post after post and like for some reason you're seeing somebody on your Instagram feed and it's like they're just posting and posting and posting. And again, this is no judgment, but it seems to happen. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, good for you. Or gosh, shut up. Like, and I, again, no judgment, but sometimes it's like, God, enough is enough. Like this retrograde Mercury in Leo, like, you may find yourself, like, screaming at the top of your lungs for attention. Notice where you do that. Like, that's the best way I can describe it, and I know when I am, like, coming from a place where I'm coming from neediness or attention seeking. And you know what? I don't first of all, I don't like how that feels. It's uncomfortable, but have I done it? Heck yes, I have. And it's kind of one of those things that's like, ew, that's so embarrassing. But it's like we're human. We all want and need to be seen and recognized and validated. So we do it. And social media has totally exacerbated that, right? We all get it. But notice when it's like you're posting from a neediness or you're showing up out of neediness. This Mercury retrograde is here to fine tune that. So you show up with presence. You just bring your presence when it feels authentic and true. And in whatever you have or want to share, and remembering to share from your heart. It's a time about redefining the way you radiate your light and through your own self expression. So remember that. And just remember the adage of like, you don't need to roar to be sovereign. It's a time of really listening before you perform, before you present your presence. So that's my Mercury in retrograde spiel. Remember, it is July 18th through August 11th. So we've got a big track of time there. Be mindful of signing on the dotted line. And obviously, if something is in the works, or you've got a new job coming up, or you're purchasing a car, just double, triple check it. Make sure it's what you want and the terms are really well defined. Have a second set of eyes. Double, triple check that. Do life happens, right? We can't help it. Life happens, but just do your due diligence in the instance that you are selling something or buying something. And one of the things with Mercury retrograde I find often is you just get hoodwinked. I call it liars, cheaters, and thieves come out. So it's a really good time for scams, internet scams, or, anything that's just shady business. So just be mindful of anything that feels A, too good to be true, or like it's not on the up and up. And then also check yourself where maybe you're being a little shady. Like I always am like, am I shady? Am I being shady in my own behavior or in my own mind? So, do that, but enjoy yourself during this time. Like, see if you can reconnect with your inner child and your inner playfulness and make it sacred, make it private, so to speak. On July 22nd, the sun will enter Leo. And once the sun enters Leo, and even though Mercury will be retrograde in Leo, we'll have that beautiful desire to express and playfulness. It's summer in the northern hemisphere. So there's that summertime, fun time vibe. Do fun things, celebrate, enjoy yourself, recognize what creativity feels and looks like for you today and prioritize it. Put it on your list. Make time for fun, for play, for games. That's what Leo loves. One of the things, and I guess I've shared this on the podcast, maybe I haven't, but my husband and I play Mexican Train. It's a dominoes game, and we've played it since the pandemic when we were living in Belize. A friend of ours bought a domino set at one of those small little stores in town, and we started playing this game called Mexican Train, and we love to play train. It's a lot of fun. We're very competitive in it, but my husband and I will play Mexican Train, like, during the work week. And not for long, but he'll be like, "Do you have a break right now? Do you wanna play some train?" And I'm like, Yes, like, let's do it." And so I will stop my day, it may be 10:30 AM, and I may have a 45-minute break between calls or whatever is on my schedule, and I will play 25 minutes of Mexican Train with him. Like, we will just play games in the middle of the day, and it's funny because I look forward to that. I need that 20 minutes to just play and have fun and play hooky a little bit in my life, and I come back to my desk and my computer and my adulting and responsibilities refreshed, rejuvenated, like, I just played hooky in the middle of the day, but it's not something I hide. It's like I've got pride in my playfulness, and it helps balance out that masculine and feminine energy I was talking about. It brings joy into my day that I play games in the middle of my workday, and there ain't no shame in it because it really gives me added vitality. So look for ways that you have fun and find pleasure. And if you can't put your finger on it right now because you're struggling or just all the things in life are happening and falling on your shoulders, who are the people in your life that make you laugh your ass off? Like, who are the people that bring you utter joy, silliness, fun, and delight? We'll pick up the phone and call them, or go to lunch with them, or have a girls' night or a guys' night. Anybody that just is fun and silly and wild and playful, get in touch with them if you can't get in touch with your own playfulness. So take action around your playfulness, your fun, your pleasure, and your joy, because it really will revitalize your energy field, especially with all the energy I talked about that we have going on this month, and the energy of the 7 month in numerology, which I defined in depth in part 1 of the energy forecast for July, but the 7 and the 9 confluence, the 9 universal year and the 7 month, it is so introspective and introverted and isolating at times that it will say, "No, I don't need to go hang out with fun friends. I'll just be fun with myself." No, you're not gonna be fun with yourself. You're just gonna get more into the dangerous neighborhood in your head. Don't forget that, and laugh. When you find yourself in the dangerous neighborhood in your head, and the neighborhood in my head, it's like derelict. It can be super dangerous. That's why it's like, "Oh, who makes me laugh? Let me pick up the phone and call them." Like, who makes me laugh? Let me do that. Or how can I laugh and create more play and joy? So just remember that. On the 24th, we have a new moon in Leo. It's at 2 degrees, and that happens at 3:11 p.m. Eastern time. So happy birthday to all you Leos out there, or if you've got a Leo moon or a Leo rising, big energy to you as well. We love all the Leo energy coming in, especially in the summertime. But this new moon, it's a different Leo new moon. Leo loves to roar. We just talked about the creative self-expression and roar of Leo the lion, the entertainer, the regal um energy that Leo boldly brings. This new moon comes in like a whisper. It's not a loud Leo new moon, it's soft. And I do wanna say something just for everyone out there. Whenever it's your new moon, meaning if you are a Leo sun sign and it's Leo new moon, that's your new moon of the year. You've got your actual birthday, your solar return, and you have your new moon. If you're a Leo moon or a Leo rising, it's also another return for you. It's a lunar return or the energy of your ascendant when the sun crosses over your rising sign, your ascendant. So those are really significant moons wherever your sun, moon, and rising are. Same for the full moon. That's like your half birthday in any of those areas. But for any of us out there, the new or the full moon, especially the new moon, really sets the tone of your energy field for the year. So the astrology happening in and around your solar new moon, it sets the tone, and the tone that I have discussed for all of July, if you're a Leo or you're a Leo moon or Leo rising, it's setting the tone for your year ahead, and when I say that, I'm not saying, "Ugh, you have this hard, dissolving Saturn, Neptune year ahead." We all have a Saturn, Neptune year ahead, but for you Leos out there, and with all of this energy kind of, colliding and compounding and fusing this month, it's really asking you to get still, to be more quiet in how you express yourself. And it's not asking you to dampen your light or diminish your light. It's actually asking you to amplify it more through stillness. So this moon is asking all of us to really be real, to be true to ourselves, to get real within ourself and our heart. It's a real heart reset. And it's like a whisper instead of a roar. There's a bit of a rebirth of authentic self expression, but in a more tender and subtle way. See how that's showing up for you. And I'm not just speaking to the Leo peeps out there, I'm speaking to all of us. How is your authentic self expression becoming more subtle, more presence oriented versus persona oriented? Let me repeat that. How is your energy becoming more presence oriented versus a mask or a persona oriented? So, a few things to think about and consider during this Leo new moon is setting intentions around authentic self expression. Where are you ready to speak, create, or show up more unapologetically without performance or approval seeking? Where is that showing up for you? It's also asking us all to reclaim joy as a sacred practice. Where do you find joy? What brings you play and pleasure and silliness, not so much as an indulgence, but a spiritual reset? Mexican Train for me is a total spiritual practice and reset. And you may think I sound delusional or am deluding myself into that. No way. Mexican Train, total spiritual practice in my day because it brings me a ton of joy. It brings me a ton of joy to like annihilate my husband in Mexican Train. Obviously, you can see I have a massive competitive edge when it comes to games, and, I'm not a sore loser, I'm actually really not, I'm just really cheeky and snarky when I play games, and I think that's kind of true to probably my soul is I am cheeky. I am a bit snarky. I am a bit irreverent. And that's what happens when I play games. This is also a great new moon to begin a creative project, but quietly and behind the scenes. Remember, with Mercury retrograde and Saturn retrograding as well, it's not a launch time. It's not a put yourself out on stage time. It's a quiet internal begin to create, start a creative project or something that is expressive for you. So if you write, you paint, whatever it is, it's not about sharing about it or speaking about it. It's doing it privately and starting it for yourself, by yourself, and with your own presence. This is also such a reset of the heart space and the heart field. I would encourage anyone out there during this new moon to really do some kind of practice with your heart space. And whether that's working with some crystals, doing some breath work, some stillness, maybe some guided meditations. If you've got my astro numerology guidebook, it gives you some good insights and journal prompts, of course, during all of the new and full moons. But this is a good new moon for ritual around the heart and around love and kindness and compassion, but kindness, love, and compassion with yourself. So anything that regulates the heart and the solar plexus, so that element in the belly and in the heart, like really deep breath work and self-soothing, that can be very helpful. And when I think about heart work too, another thing that comes to mind is cacao. I've done a lot of cacao rituals or worked with cacao medicine in many ways, and it's such a heart opener. I have this awesome rose cacao, and I can't remember the brand or the name, but I got it here in Austin, and it's a rose cacao, and it's like this really dark, bitter chocolate, but you just put it in, your milk. I put it in my coconut milk and dissolve it, and I will just drink that as tea, but drink it ritualistically. And cacao and rose is a massive, like, tantric heart opener. So that might be something you do. Get yourself some good dark chocolate on this moon. Be indulgent that way, but do something devotional or ritualistic around your heart. All right. And I would say too, like last but not least, just in closing energy around this new moon, really think about what your soul wants to radiate in these months ahead and plant a seed. Like if people could truly see you and the essence of your soul and who you are, what would be the first impression of your presence? Maybe you just pick one word that you want to radiate through your presence, write it down, write it out, put it on your bathroom mirror and speak it in the language of your heart and in your prayers and mantras and intentions. Okay. Last but not least, we close out the month with another retrograde, another retrograde. Chiron will station retrograde on the 30th of July at 26 degrees of Aries. Chiron has been in Aries for some time. Chiron is an asteroid, the wounded healer, and Chiron is a bit tricky. In Aries, Chiron really focuses on our wounded identity. Wounds around our identity, ego, old ancestral trauma, masculine distortion, anger, rage, fight. So when Chiron retrogrades, Chiron already is focusing on wounds that we have to heal in order to be able to empathically heal others, shared trauma, shared wounds, shared experiences. And when I say that, and when I talk about Chiron, it makes me think of alcoholism and addiction recovery. One of the big things in recovery is someone who has been in recovery and has a shared experience of alcohol and addiction is uniquely qualified to help another person in their addiction recovery. And that's really what Chiron, the asteroid, is teaching us, is that sometimes through our deepest trauma, pain, and wound, we find that healing when we're not afraid to look at the depth of the trauma and share it with another to be of service, to help someone else heal because of shared pain, shared tragedy. So that's really what Chiron is about. But interestingly, and this has been going on for quite a bit because Chiron moves pretty slow in the sky. Chiron has been conjunct another asteroid, an asteroid named Eris. Eris is Mars's sister. So think about that for a minute. Y'all know, Mars, the god of war, the planet of fight and courage and, all things fiery battle, masculine displays, like, that's Mars. Well, we're talking about Mars's sister, Eris. She essentially, in mythology, was the sower of divine discord. What the heck does that mean? I've thought about this a lot lately because I've been focused on Eris in my chart. She's at 26 degrees of Aries right now, as is Chiron. They've been conjunct for a hot minute. Eris brings discord into groups. She brings discord not to encourage fighting, but to encourage disruption of status quo or what is not being said under the surface. She brings it to bring the truth up to the surface. She brings discord to bring truth to the surface so everything can come to a head and things can be brought up into the air, the atmosphere, and into divine order. Think about what's going on the world stage right now, politically, leadership wise, war wise, all the things that we have going on and how much discord there is. For me, I know that there is a divine orchestration to things. I deeply believe that in my bones. And I don't believe in the atrocities that are happening at all. I'm not advocating for that, condoning it, excusing it, or denying it by any means. But I do trust that all of this discord that is going on around us, it has some kind of divine meaning that is being revealed through the discord, especially when I honor my light. I show up in integrity. You show up in integrity. And I trust that in humanity. I trust the integrity of humanity, the light of humanity, the heart of humanity to rise to the surface. But Eris is the sower of discord and divine discord. And then you have Chiron, the wounded healer, and both of them in Aries. I mean, this is just painful stuff. So, as Chiron retrogrades and that station as we close this month, just notice the last handful of days of the month and the first few days of August. Like, look at that kind of window or container for yourself and see if any dysfunction, discord, disruptions, fighting, pain, anything painful that shows up for you personally or anything painful going on the world stage. What is it revealing to you and how can you heal it? Heal it wholeheartedly. And this is about being forged by fire. I've talked about the energy of this year really feeling like we are forged by and through fire. And when I was thinking about that and thinking about Chiron stationing retrograde, basically conjunct with Eris, yeah, the only imagery that kept coming through in my mind was Daenerys Targaryen. And in that season of Game of Thrones, when she literally, goes into that lodge with the dragon's eggs and, the next morning she's like totally nude and reborn with these 3 baby dragons. That's that whole season, which I think is the very first season, if I'm correct, of Game of Thrones. Like, that's what this energy feels like like the mother of dragons being born. Like, there is something in that imagery of her walking out with those little baby dragons after that whole place burned down and she doesn't have a burn on her. That's kind of what this Chiron retrograde, especially conjunct with Eris, feels like that we are something like the old layers of us, the old identity is being stripped away so that inner goddess, that inner warrior, divine warrior, or, priestess, whatever it may be, is being born. So think about these few things, and this is what I'll close with for the month of July. Reclaiming your ability to divine rage, divine anger. And when I share that, what I'm saying is sacred rage, like allowing your passion and your rage to flow through you, not at anyone else or not back onto you, but allowing yourself to feel alive and infuriated and completely wild and uncontrollable. Do you allow yourself to do that? Do you know how to do that? I mean, I think about, being 5 years old and kicking and screaming on the ground and hyperventilating to the point I don't even know what I was upset about in the first place. Sometimes we need to just let that electricity run through us, that anger, that rage. Let your emotions, allow your emotions to run through you in a sacred and honorable way, not on anyone else or back on yourself, but through you. Also, it's a great time to revisit any wounds that you have. Like, what is showing up for you? What feels wounded? What still hurts? What are your triggers? And really revisiting those a little bit to see what other sickness, what other disease may be going on. Also, because we're talking about Aries energy, be mindful of any inflammation in your physical body, in your emotional body, like really, really making sure that you are practicing some kind of detoxification in some way, shape, or form. Whether you are getting in a hot sauna, you're getting outside and sweating a little bit, you're drinking more water, you're doing an actual detox or a cleanse, just being mindful of inflammation, period. And a lot of times, like I was talking about how I like shake my face a lot and shake my hands like a little bit of a wild person. A lot of times when I wake up in the morning, I am 44, and my eyes are puffy, and which I don't want to have any of that business because it's just creating more wrinkles. And, I am a Libra, so I do care about those things. Truth bomb. But I'll be like, oh my gosh, I got to shake all this salt and fluid off of my skin. So really think about inflammation and whether you're emotionally inflamed or physically inflamed. It's a really good temperature gauge of some like divine rage, divine energy that may need to process through you. So I don't know, take more turmeric, do what you need to do. Also, giving your inner warrior some new instructions. Like, what are you fighting for? Are you fighting for survival or are you fighting for happiness? Are you fighting to live? And I mean, are you fighting at all? What are you wrestling with? What are you fighting with? And so, any heat that's in the body, like, look at your battles, pick your battles. Do you need to battle at all? These are things that you want to think about as we move through August and September because Chiron will be retrograde for a bit. But this is last but not least, this is a beautiful time frame to reorient your core power or even your concept of power. What does power and presence look like to you? And I think I've started to even drop the word empowerment and I just have replaced it with presence. And it's not even inner authority, sovereignty, agency. It's just straight up presence. What am I present for? And what is my presence radiating? So think about really reorienting or redefining your concept of power or empowerment and looking at your presence. Okay, that's a lot of energy. There's a lot going on. I'm even overwhelmed by myself talking about this. So I'm laughing a little bit because I'm like, gosh, thank goodness I didn't record this in one podcast episode because I shared with you all. I was like, this is a lot. There's a lot going on. I would definitely go back, listen, re listen, take notes, take what you want, leave the rest, whatever resonates with you. Be true to that. But more than anything, be present. Your gift is in the present moment. Share your presence and begin to really and truly fine tune the nature and essence of your soul through your presence. Be well, everyone. Thanks for joining me.